Hello everyone, OoohBoi is here bringing you more cool stuff from the world of Elementor. This time I'm about to teach you how to build your own content slider out of section and columns. I know there's a slides widget in Elementor, I know there's a carousel widget too, and I know there are many other sliders like Elementor add-ons out there. However, this is the special one. That very slider is not a widget, it's a handmade thing. So the idea of custom-made slider relies on a couple of facts. The very first fact is that Elementor enqueues swiper library to all of its templates or pages that are built with Elementor. And the second fact is that we have all the tools and means required to build a slider already available in Elementor. For all of you asking yourself what is the swiper? Well, swiper is a modern type of slider widely used all over the internet, even by Elementor's widgets like slides or carousel widget. So what's the plan here? The plan is to turn the section columns into swiper slides, and in order to achieve something like that, we'll need a little bit of custom CSS code and a little bit of JavaScript. Of course, you'll be able to compose each and every slide in a pure visual fashion, on a way you are used to do things in Elementor. If you wish, you can download this tutorial files in the form of importable Elementor templates for a small fee. Details and the link can be found in the description text below. So the step number 1. Create section with 3 columns that gonna become our slides. The section must have a custom class assigned because we'll use that class name to target the elements of our content slider by both CSS and JavaScript. So the class name is going to be custom swiper. Each column has to be 100% wide, which means that the columns should be sitting one on top of another. That's not possible in Elementor by default, so here's the first CSS workaround. So with the custom swiper section highlighted, with our master section highlighted, open Advanced tab and expand custom CSS panel and add the following chunk of CSS code. That very CSS rule allows us to create 100% wide columns inside the section. And now I just need to actually make all the columns 100% wide. Here is how. What does that greater than symbol mean? It tells browser that 100% width applies to those elements which are direct children of a parent. Or otherwise, it says that only the first level columns should be 100% wide. That's how any eventual intersection widget that might become a part of the slide won't be affected by the 100% width. Intersection widget is also section and columns based, okay? Now that we have created the structure, let's do the step number 2. Let's create the content of our 3 slides. I will definitely not do that from scratch because it'll take too much time. I'll just copy paste slides that I have prepared before. You probably noticed that I also copy paste the CSS code because typing takes significant amount of time as well. At this point, I should mention that all of my slides are tablet and mobile friendly, which means that I have made them look right in responsive mode as well. If you wonder why I am insisting on that stack-like layout of columns, the reason should be obvious. It's much easier to compose or design all the slider slides on the same page and see how they look like right away. Much easier than designing it one by one as a separate unit. Alright, what's the next step? In the next step, we'll assign required classes to our custom swiper elements. We have to do that in order to make our section and column structure comply the swiper required element structure. Okay? So let's go to the Swiper official website and let's open one of the slider demos to make things as clear as possible. I'm going to open the second example that includes previous and next button navigation. With regards to the structure, it's mandatory to have a swiper container, which is the outermost wrapping element. Then inside swiper container, there must be swiper wrapper element and previous and next button navigation. Swiper wrapper is the parent element of all the slides, while each and every slider slide must have a class named swiper slide. So that's the structure that we need to follow in Elementor 2. Now I'll go back to Elementor and I'm going to make a preview of our work in progress in browser. I want to show you our custom swiper source code in Browser Developer Tools. Why? Because that's the way to tell you which element should become swiper container, swiper wrapper, and swiper slide. And of course, I'll let you know where to inject previous and next button navigation. So here's our master section with the class custom swiper. We have assigned that class at the very beginning of this tutorial. This one remains as is. The very first child, the Elementor container, should have a class swiper container 2. That's the swiper container. That's gonna be a swiper container. And the very first child of Elementor container is the Elementor row, which must have a class swiper wrapper, according to the swiper required element structure. Finally, each Elementor column must have a class swiper slide, simply because each column should become one slider slide. Previous and next button navigation will be injected after the swiper wrapper closing tag, here. Okay, now it's time to deploy some JavaScript, more precisely jQuery. The only way to run JavaScript code in Elementor is by using HTML widget. So I'm going to drag and drop the HTML widget to the section and then copy paste some jQuery code. That HTML widget is going to become our custom slider controller. So here's the code. That very code is incomplete because we didn't initialize the slider with that code. We didn't initialize the slider yet. What that code is supposed to do at this point is to assign swiper required classes to our custom swiper elements and create previous and next button elements at the required location in code. I can check whether all is good with the code if I update the slider, then go back to Developer Tools. If everything is okay, if the class names were properly assigned to the target elements, our custom slider is only one step away to become functional. Let's take a look. So custom swiper is the topmost element. That's our master section. The first child is swiper container. That class was assigned by our jQuery code. Then the first child of swiper container is swiper wrapper, which is okay as well. You can see that each Elementor column now has swiper slide class assigned to. And finally, here is swiper button next element followed by swiper button previous element. These two were created by jQuery. I said that these must be injected because they wouldn't actually exist in DOM if they were not appended that way. We cannot create these elements in Elementor manually. That's why we use jQuery. Okay, it looks all good. Let's initialize our custom slider. This is going to be like waking up the Frankenstein for the first time. Okay, so I'll go back to the swiper official website, back to our demo slider, in order to copy paste the chunk of code required to initialize our custom swiper. Here's the code, and I'll simply select copy, then go back and paste at the end of my existing jQuery code. There it is. Our little Frankenstein should be awake now, and if I try to click on previous or next button, it'll move entire body. However, we want it to move slide by slide because that's a slider. So that's why I'm going to go back to the custom CSS panel of our master section and do some adjustments. Okay, so open advanced tab, expand custom CSS panel, then cancel flex wrap property. Why? Because we don't need the stack layout anymore. We don't need slides to be one on top of another anymore. We actually want our slides to be one next to each other instead. And finally, I have to add fixed height to each slide. So I'll type in height 600 pixels. And if I don't add fixed height to my slides or columns, the slider will make any content below itself movable. It'll move up and down. The content will move up and down because each slide will have a different height. And there it is, the most basic setup for a custom-made slider in Elementor. From this point, we can literally extend the slider functionality towards any goal. I'll just demonstrate a few, otherwise this video might take too much time. But as I said at the beginning, you can download tutorial files for a small fee, and you're gonna get a whole bunch of importable slider templates, different versions of our slider, including vertical slider, 3D cube slider, etc., etc. You can either study the code or use by your own projects, whatever you like. So the first thing to do here is to fix the button widget inside the slider. As you can see, the button fell apart. The cause of the problem is Swiper itself, but it's easy to fix it. I'll just add the following CSS rule to my custom CSS panel. Okay, it's all good now. Next, if we take a look how the slider looks like in responsive mode, be it a tablet or mobile, you can see that the slides or columns are sitting one on top of another again, and that's something we don't want. Luckily, it's quite easy to fix that one too, with media query and another simple CSS rule. Okay, let's take a look now. The tablet mode, everything is fine as you can see. Now the mobile, okay, it's all good as well. Yeah. So our slider is now fully responsive too. What's next? We might want to style up these previous and next buttons because they are pretty much awful. Basically, you can style them up on a way you like. I'm just going to copy paste a set of rules that I prepared before. Okay, these are my rules. Alrighty, that's what makes buttons look much better, right? Now, how about some improvements regarding the slider functionality? How about making the slides loop infinite? How about making the slider full screen, like full width and full height? How about adding some parallax to the slide elements, or maybe pagination? Sure, why not everything? You can literally customize your slider towards any goal, and which is something that cannot be done by using any widget slider or any Elementor add-on slider. It's simply because that the slider interface does not allow that much flexibility. Okay, let's quickly make our slider even more awesome. First, I'm going to highlight the slider controller, which is the HTML widget. And I'll enable infinite loop and parallax. I can do that by adding these properties to the slider init code. I also want my slides to move a little bit slower, so I'll add speed property as well. Now the pagination. Because the pagination requires another element to be added to the Swiper container, I'll have to inject it the same way I did inject previous and next buttons, like this. Okay, pagination element created, let's make it functional. For anything I'm doing right now here, there's a demo on Swiper official website. Everything is very well documented and you can simply copy paste parts of the code. So I'm gonna paste pagination code. Now in order to make my slider full screen, I have to change its height in my custom CSS code. So let's highlight the master section, open custom CSS panel, and change height from 600 pixels to 100 VH, or viewport height, 100% of viewport height. I'll also remove top and bottom margin that is currently set to 100 pixels. And of course, make the section full width. So select Layout tab and choose full width from the Content Width drop-down. Let's update the page and refresh browser window. Why do I have to refresh browser window? Well, it's because our JavaScript in HTML widget gets cached by Elementor, and the cache is rebuilt on page load or refresh only. So whenever you change something in JavaScript code, refresh the page, because that's how you can be sure that new settings and options take place. I'm gonna make a preview in browser first, even though everything works fine in Elementor editor as well. And here it is, our full screen slider. Works like a charm. Okay? Now, what about that parallax that I mentioned a while ago? How do I make the slider slide elements move in parallax? Believe it or not, you can use Elementor's attributes panel to define the key value pair, because Swiper allows setting up the parallax value of a certain element via custom data attributes. First, let's take a look at the Swiper's API docs. Let's see what data attributes are available for use. There are not many as I recall, but it'll be enough to spice up our custom slider. So here they are. Parallax by either of the two axes, like X and Y. then the scale, opacity, parallax duration, etc. And right below there's an example of how to use. Pretty much straightforward and absolutely doable in Elementor. Alright, now that we know all the valid data attributes, let's see how to apply these to our slide elements. I'm going to do the parallax effect for only one slide element, just as an example. If you want to get the effect to another slide element, the same rule applies to all. So highlight the target element first, open Advanced tab, then expand Attributes panel. Okay, attribute key and value should be supplied separated by the pipe character. Alright, that's the rule. So I'm gonna make the title slide in from the left hand side, and the effect should last for 500 milliseconds. It's gonna look like this. Alright, and from now on I'll simply copy paste these two for all other slide elements. The only difference is the timing of the parallax duration. That's how my slide elements show up or reach the final position with a little delay, which is the whole point of the parallax effect. I've noticed that scaling and opacity does not work as expected, but I kind of think that these two are meant to be used for a different purpose. Or maybe I was doing things the wrong way, not sure. Anyway, this is how the things look like now, okay? So update the page first and preview in browser. And if I now do some sliding, you'll see how my target slide elements move in with a little delay. As I said, you can add parallax to any other slide element. It'll even work for the intersection widget or the intersection widget columns if that widget is a part of your slide, of course. Okay, I also wanted to pay your attention to something that might seem very confusing. Whenever the infinite loop is used as one of the slider features, Swiper will duplicate a few slides automatically in order to create the illusion of an infinite sliding loop. So some of the slides that you can see here in Elementor editor are, believe it or not, the ghost slides. What does it mean? It means that if you try to select existing slide widgets for edit, or if you try to add new widgets to such a ghost slide, you won't be able to. Let me show you. Okay, so this is the ghost slide. How do I know that? Well, if I try to edit the title, I cannot even select it, you see? What I have to do is to move the slider forward or backward until I reach the slide that's made out of flesh and blood, so to speak. Once I got it, I'll be able to change whatever I need to change to that very slide. So that's a little catch. Alright people, I guess it's time to bring this video to the end. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you can benefit from something like that. Well, how come not? I mean, you can save the slider as a template and import to any other page. By doing so, you'll be able to edit each and every slide, adjust settings, etc, etc. Once again, feel free to download tutorials files for a small fee, because that's how you can help me grow my channel and dedicate more time on creating Elementor tutorials. You can think of it as a micro investment to your own knowledge. Of course, all the CSS code as well as jQuery code can be downloaded from my Gist account, and the link to the file is in the description as usual. If you like this tutorial, give me a thumb up, comment, share, spread the word. Anything you do will be fine. And if you do so, I'll give my best to publish more videos. Stay tuned. Thanks for the support.